Well, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Papa's Workshop. These are for Adam, Brady, Luke, and Brenna, and for all those others like seeing an old man make sawdust. Before we get started, we better check in with my apprentice. There she is, patiently waiting. You ready? Search! So it's a little game we play in the morning. Little treats hidden around the shop, but she has to go find them. So let's get to work. All right, this is part 2 of the Philly chair build. We're going to continue to work on the back of the chair, the back legs, the back rail. Also, I want to start on the shoe and the splat so I can determine where the top of the back legs are, at least reasonably close, because we got some trim work we can do on those before we glue it up to the back rail. So without further ado, let's get started. I went to round these and saw I was way too conservative on the flats. These should all be more equal. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out what the circle should be. That's the center line. That'll help me get it right. This is slightly oval shape. It's 1 3/4 inches this way, but only 1 5/8 inches that way. Of course, we're looking at it at a slant. But you see, I need to come in about, 1/16 of an inch or so on that. So to speed things up, I'm going to use the router table with a chamfer bit and just take that 1/16 off. And I'm going to stay away from the end, because that's what I was worried about in the first place, is that I might, because the grain is going straight up and down, not, the bit becoming an angle. I was afraid it might take a chunk out of this end. So we'll take on the router table about 1 inch back down to where we need to be. Just take that 1/16 off, and then we'll be better. It'll be easier to round the rest of that. So let's do that. So what I was afraid of on the router table happened. I got just a little chunk pulled out of there, and of course it flew off into oblivion. So what I have to do is we'll take a chisel and get that a nice flat across there. And I got a little piece, like I always keep all the cutoffs, put them in a bucket, a separate bucket to until I'm ready, till I'm done, and then I'll get rid of them. But so we'll just put that right back, a piece like that right on there, and then we can finish that. So little sidetrack, but that happens. I mean, it could have happened even with doing it by hand, but it's more because it was the router. All right, there's the patch. So it's just a matter of planing that smooth. A little oversized. Get it there. Pretty good. And then we'll use a spoke shave. There's a little bit of a curve on this other side. Which way the grain is going on that. This curved one. go. So when we get finish on there, it won't be, and it's in the back. This is where the back rail goes, so it's on the inside of the back, so we won't be too visible. So now we got to go back to where I was on this. We're gonna just take a rasp and flatten those out to where we should be. I forgot to show, I'm putting guidelines of where that should be on both. That one's already pretty much there. And then down at the base as well. We got some lines to work towards. All right, so now we're going to make some lines. I'm going to take, this is about a 2 1/4 circle, and we're going to go right from where our line's supposed to be to our center line. This will be the guide for the transition between the square and the round. So now we know what to work towards. Then we want to just take your finger as a measuring guide, put a center line down those 2 facets. And we're going to do the same thing. We'll take a spoke shave, going to work right down that edge. And you kind of need a raking light to be able to see somehow. To be right where the camera is. But you want that facet to be, between the line and there and there and there, all to be kind of equal. You just kind of eyeball it. When that's about there, then just knock those corners off. Well, that shows up on the camera, but I'm going to do the same thing over here. And knock the corners off. Okay, so we're going to do that all the way around. And then we'll take a scraper to it. Okay, with it rough shape, I can still feel I got some work to do there, but I've got it turned 45, and I'm gonna work on getting that closer to where it should be with the rasp. I'm not worried about getting super close. I just want to get most of it out of there. Get a little closer with the file. I'm going to take a scraper had it there somewhere. I bought a handsaw at a yard sale for like $1 and cut it up, and that's what I use for scrapers. So this is a 2-inch diameter curve, and our maximum here is 1 3/4. So you want it a little bit bigger than what you're trying to actually do, or you're going to have trouble with the corners digging in. So we can just take this and work out the grain must be going on the down. It's not scraping too well right there, but this makes it pretty round. We'll get up in there. And so we'll just do that all the way around. Until we get it nice and round. Just have to keep working at it back and forth. I'll show you the finished when it's done. All right, so I did all the 45s, with the thing sitting at 45. I did that, smoothed it all out. Now I'm going around on all the square sides and finishing up. And it's just a matter of going around like that until you get all the facets off of there. And you can use, actually your hand is a better indicator than actually looking at it. You can kind of feel where it needs to be. And you got to be aware of the grain direction when you're especially using the spoke shave, right? We're going, grain's going this way, so we're going downhill this way, downhill that way, so you got to change the way you're going at it. The scraper will work both ways, but it gives you a smoother texture if you go downhill. And you're about there when you just start taking that line off. A little tougher at the ends. It's not enough meat. Okay, with that all done, then we're going to go back and work on these with the scrapers and get that smooth. All right, there we are. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's pretty close. So we'll get all of them to that state, then we'll just probably take some sandpaper to get the last little bit of the facets out of there. A little bit there. But, so, we got 7 more to get to that shape. All right, we got all the bottoms rounded on all the 4 chairs. So now we're going to determine where the top of the leg is, at least pretty close. So in order to do that, we need the shoe and the splat, at least, the joinery done, the mortise and tendons. So there's a shoe. We're not going to worry about cutting the shape. We just got that. So I've cut the ends off at the 2.5 degrees, and it just fits in there tight enough. So now we just need to put the mortise in the top of that for the splat. All right, we got the splat material all milled up. So we're going to get ready to cut the tendon since we've got the mortise is in the shoe material. We will go ahead and cut the tendon for that end, and then we'll have to do the crest rail to its mortise as well. Got it. What you got, Rose? So you can see I've marked the pattern on here. I've got the template. I just marked it on each one of these. So we'll get the tendons cut, and then we'll, on the bandsaw, we'll cut this top curve out. Well, that worked pretty well. Let's see, get that a little bit away. See, that's at an angle. So I tilted the bed up to get that angle. But what I should have done is I should have cut the blank, should have angled that cut on the table saw. Now I have to go back and get these. This is square to this edge, not to this edge. So I need to trim that face of that tendon, or the end of the tendon. Now I got to do the crest rail. All right, we got all the joinery done on the splats, and so what I've done is I've taped them double-sided tape back to back, and I'm going to cut the front curve on both of these, and then we'll do that on the other pair. And then we'll have to smooth it out before we define that it's going to be a 1/2 inch thick, so the back will have to be curved like that too. But we'll get the front all smoothed out, and then we'll worry about the backs. So we're just going to cut this out on the bandsaw. All right, with all that much done, I have dry assembled the back, and I did all that so that I can define where the tops are. So I can put this straight edge on the top of the splat, and then I drew a line right there so I know how tall it's going to be. And I'm not going to cut this off. There's going to be a tendon on the top, so these that go into the crest rail. We're not going to worry about that right now. It's once it's glued that we'll do the final. But we have this profile that we have to put on these back legs, this back like this. So now I know close enough where that's going to be, so I can go ahead and cut that profile where the legs are loose. And then we got to do the same rounding that we did at the bottom. We're going to do from about here up. All right, with the top of the leg established, we can go ahead and use our template. And I actually had designed this to be on the front side, but since our line's on the back, we just do it back here. So it's just a matter of setting it right there, and I've already traced that out. So now this is going to be safer to cut on the bandsaw, because I can keep this down on the table as I cut. So we'll cut that real quick. All right, with that shape cut, we need to smooth it out, and it's a straight line to about like right here. So we take just a regular plane and get that part, and the spoke shave this part, and the spoke shave on the back. We're not too worried about the top, but that's going to be shaped once the crest rail is up there. But we just want to get this part of it smooth, because we have to round the back side of the rail, which is facing me, from about here up, you know, but it narrows, so we needed to cut this before we could do that. So let's get that. right, now that we've got the ramps all smoothed out, we have to round like we did this. We have to do just the back side of this. So I've marked it kind of the same way. We put the center line there and the center line there. This is a straight line, so it's just a taper. So then I marked out where the facets have to be to get me started. So I marked those. Now the ones on the side are a little different. We want to mark the edge of the curve, edge of the rounding, to be the same as what it was to the center here and the same there, so that we get a nice curve, rather than, because this is a little bit thinner here than it is that way, and the same when we get up here. So so then I mark down where the facets. So now to mark that curve, I'm just going to use the pattern, the template that I had made for that, and just lay it on there and mark those lines. And then we've got the same little curve at the top, using this as a template. So now we got that little deal. So I just need to do that on the other side, then we can get started. All right, we got that one flat. So now it's just a matter of doing it. I'm not going to bother with a center line down each one of these. I'm just going to eyeball it and use the spoke shave to get it close. And we've got sort of a little curve, so I've got to use a rounded base, like that. It's just a matter of locking the corners off. It goes pretty fast. So we'll go around and do that to the other side, and then down the middle last. All right, we got that one done. Could use a little bit of sanding. Not worried about this, 6-8 inches up here. The crest rail is going to go here, and this has to merge into the crest rail. So I've got a little bit of extra on each direction that way, and then we'll round this and smooth it as it blends into the crest rail. But we have to get things glued up before we do that. So this is pretty much ready. I did take a scraper and scrape this flat edge that was routed on the table, or router table, to get the machine marks out of it. All right, the last thing we want to do before we glue up the back rail is make these through tendons have square ends, which would be more traditional than this. So I've got it marked where my starting point is, and I'm going to use this as a gauge. That's how big I want this is red because this slopes up. This block is not 90, so I had to trim it. And that reminds me that this is not square to this block, but it is square there. So we're going to put that in there. That gives me the length and to keep it. So I probably can't see much now. Anyway, so I'm just going to chisel down this way and make those square. Okay, I got that side started, so I took the clamps off. One tool I used to clean up those corners a little bit, it's just, this is an old chiseled and it was actually bent here. But it works really good if you it's blunt, see, it's not sharp at all. But that sharp 90-degree corners act like a scraper, so you can just take and go down the corners with that, and it just cleans those right up. Looks really good as a scraper. Let's see if this fits. Over there, but ends are a little tight. Just needs a little bit more work on these ends. Pretty much there. So a little bit of work, then we'll flip it over and come in from the other side. All right, there we are. I had some problems with these. On the panel router, I came in, went halfway from this side and then halfway from this side, and I had some mismatch, mostly this way. That's why I had to make it a little bit bigger to cover that. So I think it's just my old eyes not lining up the lines to the center line. But if I had to do it over again, I would plunge all the way through in one pass. I mean, I go down in steps, but I would go all from one side. The other thing we're going to do is when it comes time, this is for the side rails, when it comes time to do that, we're going to make this just a little bit bigger here and there, because we're going to wedge from this back side that tendon, but we'll worry about that later. Right now I wanted to get it nice and square, down this way it's square. So we're good. So what I'm going to do is sand this at least right here, so we can glue up the back rails. Then we can start on the shoe. All right, I've got one set sanded. The round parts are sanded, and so we're ready to glue the back rail onto the back legs. And I've taped on a 2.5 degree block, which is what the angle of this, that the back rail is cut at. So this will give me a nice square clamping surface. And I'm going to use, let me get this, the Titebond hide glue, and I've been having it soak in hot water. It spreads better if it's warm. So that'll make this, you can disassemble and repair it. If by some miracle this lasts 100 years like the original. I guess the original is 200 years. Regular PV glues. All right, that should do it for this episode. I'll finish up the other 3, getting them glued up, and we'll be ready to start on the shoe next episode. Thanks for watching. Please share if there's anybody you know that's interested in this kind of stuff, and we'll see you next time.